The Intercept has yet another story about how the NSA has violated our rights. Now, if you listen to President Obama, this would never happen. Listen to what he said. There is no spying on Americans. Oh, that's good to know. We don't have a domestic spying program. What we do have is some mechanisms that can track a phone number or an email address that is connected to a terrorist attack. That information is useful. So no spying on Americans. Interesting. So now let me show you 5 Americans that have clearly been spied upon. Okay, first one is FISA Gill, longtime Republican Party operative, a one-time candidate for public office, again under the Republican Party, who held a top secret security clearance and served in the Department of Homeland Security under President George W. Bush. Now, does it matter? Nope. He's Muslim. We got to look into him. How about Asim Ghafoor? Asim Ghafoor is a prominent attorney who has represented clients in terrorism-related cases. So has many other non-Muslim attorneys. As far as we can tell, they have not been investigated. Asim Ghafoor, oh, he's Muslim. Investigated. Now, is it clear that they had warrants on any of these? No, the NSA will not say whether they had warrants on any of these. In fact, there's evidence that they didn't on at least one of them. Hussain Amaramdi, an Iranian-American professor of international relations at Rutgers University, clearly pro-Western, believes in gay rights, ran against the Iranian hardliners in their elections. Now, he didn't have much of a chance of winning. He's a professor at Rutgers, but he ran against them. At this point, he's an atheist. Investigate him. You never know. It has a Muslim-sounding name. He's Iranian. Unacceptable. So, Agha Saeed, a former political science professor at California State University, who champions Muslim civil liberties and Palestinian rights. He wound up endorsing George W. Bush in 2000. He was with George Bush right after the 9/11 attacks. Doesn't matter. Muslim. Who cares that he's an American citizen? Investigate him. Nihad Awad. Now this one is a doozy. The executive director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, the largest Muslim civil rights organization in the country. Now, these guys work with the government all the time. These guys are the ones that put out the statements time after time saying, hey, you know what? We condemn all these violent attacks. The government is all over them. There's no question that they are not a foreign agent of another government. They're not terrorists. They're not involved with anything like that. They're a civil rights organization. You remember when we used to spy in on a civil rights organization, like when Hoover spied in on Martin Luther King? Well, we're doing it again. It's happening right now to American citizens. But it's okay. Obama tells me it isn't happening. Now, FISA Gill, in the midst of a really serious story, cracks me up a little bit. And he says, I just don't know why. I've done everything in my life to be patriotic. I served in the Navy, served in the government, was active in my community. I've done everything that a good citizen, in my opinion, should do. Okay, did that help him? No, Muslim, sorry, doesn't help you. Here's my favorite quote. I was a very conservative, Reagan-loving Republican. If somebody like me could be surveilled, then there are other people out there I can only imagine who are under surveillance. That's right, we don't have to imagine. I just named you the 4 other guys. There's probably so many more. These are just the ones we have because of what Edward Snowden gave to reporters like Glenn Greenwald at The Intercept. So now we know these guys did get surveilled. Now, we have more. We have a memo from inside these investigations. And in the place where it's supposed to say John Doe, it says instead, if you can see the identity there, Mohammed Raghead. That's from our government. Mohammed Raghead. No, they're not being targeted because they're Muslims. No, we would never do that. We don't spy in on Americans. Are Muslims Americans? Yes, they are. Muslim Americans are 100% American. They're not 96%. They're not 99% Americans. 100%. But not according to, unfortunately, our government, which is out of control. Now, in the Intercept piece, they mention a Wired piece that ran back in 2011 that actually pointed out something else the FBI was doing. This is important context. According to FBI training materials uncovered by Wired in 2011, the Bureau taught agents to treat mainstream Muslims as supporters of terrorism, to view charitable donations by Muslims as a funding mechanism for combat, and to view Islam itself as a Death Star that must be destroyed if terrorism is to be contained. Wow. Now, I don't believe that that represents all of the FBI. I don't believe that that represents all of the American training on the Muslim American community. I really don't. And maybe I'm being naive, okay? But I don't. I think it was probably one guy who wrote this memo, but they used it for training purposes. Outside the bounds of reason. It's that mentality that rips this country apart. We're all supposed to be equal in this country, but it's obvious that unfortunately at this point we are not. Now let me give you one of the guys who was a former FBI agent that was in this group. His name is John Guandolo, and as the article explains, he's a former FBI counterterrorism official, and he told The Intercept that he participated in investigations of some of the individuals whose email accounts were monitored. Now, what does he believe? Guandolo believes that hundreds of covert members of Muslim Brotherhood are active in the United States, that some of them have succeeded in infiltrating the Pentagon, and that CIA Director John Brennan is a secret Muslim. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That guy was an FBI counterterrorism official. I mean, look at the training manual. Look at the guys they have inside. Look at what they call him, Mohammed Raghead. Look at the Americans that they investigated, okay? It goes on and on. And now, do they have warrants? Well, that's a very important question. If you got warrants, that's a different situation, right? Well, last week, anonymous officials told another news outlet that the government did not have a FISA warrant against at least one of the individuals named here during the time frame covered by the spreadsheet. So the others were not clear about it. We asked the NSA, they're American citizens, did you have warrants? It's clear now that you surveilled them for periods of time, right? No, not going to tell you. And one of them, clearly we didn't have a warrant for. Warrant, it's so old school. It's so constitutional. It's so 1776. No, we don't do warrants. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. American citizens, who cares? They're Muslims. Does that really count? And look, it's so easy to go to the FISA court. Do you know that in its 35-year history, the court has approved 35,434 government requests for surveillance while rejecting only 12? So it's not like it's hard to get a warrant. If you want a warrant, a little probable cause will do it. Agents talk about how judges will give you 1 or 2 in the morning in their pajamas. They just look at you up and down and go, yeah, you seem like an honest guy. Here's a warrant. They only rejected 12 out of 35,000. Nonetheless, in some of these cases, they didn't get warrants against American citizens anyway. Is this how we're supposed to run the country? Is this our core principles? It's violated over and over again, and then the government comes out, whether it's Bush or Obama, and lies straight to our face. Let me remind you again of that quote from President Obama. Quote, "There is no spying on Americans. We don't have a domestic spying program. What we do have is some mechanisms that can track a phone number or an email address that is connected to a terrorist attack. That information is useful." How is this connected to a terrorist attack? Yes, you do spy in on Americans, and you do have a surveillance program. So please stop lying about it. Another great story from The Intercept that tells you what our government is up to. And if you're one of those guys out there who thinks, oh, what's the difference? I mean, look, you got to lean to Muslims. You can't trust the Muslims. Who are you not going to trust next? Remember during the Bush administration, they looked into peace groups because of the trouble that they could cause by being peaceful, including the Quakers. Now, Quakers are another religion, right? So now you got Muslims, you got Quakers. Who's next? Who's going to be under suspicion next? And on what grounds are you going to say, no, what do you mean? I'm an American. Well, those guys were Americans, and we went after them. This is not what the country is supposed to stand for. You're helping Al-Qaeda rip us apart by making us unequal, by separating us, by spying in on each other, by destroying our own principles. Al-Qaeda couldn't have done it any better. If they set out to destroy our own freedoms, they can't do it. They can kill us, they can hurt us, but they can't take our freedoms away. Only we can do that, and apparently we already have.